Hi everyone, I was just making this video just to show people how to use a 3D printer pen and how to fix one, because they do break quite easily. So I'm just going to demonstrate how to fix some of the more common faults that you might come across with them, because I know that a lot of kids are getting these for Christmas this year. So this is a 3D printer pen. This is the one that I generally recommend to people who ask me what pen to get. They're pretty much the cheapest on the market that actually print with plastic, with ABS or PLA, and you can get them on Amazon for about £25 now. So they use 1.75mm filament. ABS is the one that I'd recommend for kids. You can use PLA in them, but it tends to, unless you change the temperature, it tends to be too hot for PLA. So ABS is the one to go for, and it's easier to draw with. So to turn the pen on, so you got your power cord in, and then to turn the pen on you click the down arrow, so this one here. So you click it and this light goes on. You can't really see it in the video, but it's red, and it takes about 20 seconds to heat up from cold. I've just had this one on, so it'll heat up quite quickly. But just when it does go, when it is heated up fully, it's 230 degrees down here, so don't touch it. So now it's green, so you can put the filament in. So this is your speed control here. When you put the filament in, you do want it on fast, just so it goes in faster. So up the way is fast. So you take your filament. You want to make sure you cut quite a lot, or if you're using it from a reel, just keep it attached to the reel if you can, because one thing that causes pens to break or jam is that the plastic, if you use up all your plastic, it disappears, but the part that pushes the plastic is up here. So once the plastic goes past there, there's nothing left to push it, so it gets stuck in the pen and it can cause blockages. So best avoiding that. So make sure you cut enough for what you want to use, if possible. So you take the end of your filament, put it into this hole, hold it at the same time as you hold the button that you used to turn it on, and then you'll hear the noise. You don't push it. Make sure you don't push it, because if you do push it, when it gets down to the nozzle, if you force it, it can force the nozzle off, and that's a major. It can cause a major issue here where wires break. So to fix that, you have to solder it, which obviously isn't possible for everybody to be able to fix their pen by doing that. So make sure you don't force the plastic in the pen, and then you hold it until, I'll just hold this paper up, there's plastic coming out then. So you can keep holding it, and it keep coming out, and then if you give it a few seconds to cool, you can take it off and it's cool enough to touch. So once it's through, you might notice that it does keep coming out, but it's just because it's so hot that it does keep melting whatever's in the nozzle. So try not to worry about it too much. It's hard to be a perfectionist when using these pens because you can't be that neat with them. So to use them, if you try and hold it like a normal pen, and so place your thumb on the button that you use to turn the pen on and to put the filament in. So hold the button as you draw on the paper. Okay, so I'll draw back here. So you can hold the button, lean against the paper, take it quite slowly, just always make sure if you're having any issues with it peeling up, hold it against the paper. That's the thing that's most commonly the problem, and hold the pen as upright as possible. And you don't have to do it all in one go as well. You can, for example, doing a circle, you might want to do that in, like, do one side and then do the other side and join it, because circles are really difficult to do when you're starting out. Also, one thing, if people, I'm not sure if I'll be able to do it, but one thing a lot of beginners do with it is if they draw a line and then keep holding I must be leaning too hard to actually do it. Yeah, if you keep holding the button even when you're using it and then try to lift the pen up, it will peel up what you've used. So make sure you let go of the button before you try to lift the pen up, and that makes it more likely to stay on the paper. So once you've drawn it out, you can take what you've written. Oh no, it's back to front because I'm using the front camera. But and then you can just peel off what you've created. So you can. This is a flat thing, obviously, and I must have leaned really hard towards some paper, but that's okay. So you can see that now this is plastic, and it is ABS. It's the same plastic that Lego's made out of. So you can make quite cool stuff with it. Another thing you can do with them is if you turn the speed down to slow, so pretty much all the way down. Maybe just leave a little gap because it does come out really slowly on slow mode. And then hold the button as you normally would, make a little blob, bring it against the paper again, and then slowly lift the pen up in the air. I don't know if you can see that. And if you hold it for a few seconds after you've let go of the button, and then it's staying up in there, so you can then sort of make towers and attach bits to them. So yeah, I don't know, can you see that? Yeah, so you can draw a pattern here with them, and it takes a bit of practice, but you can end up making some really fun things with them. So to change, if you're changing your colour, if you've got lots of nice colours with your pen, to change it, don't pull it, because again this can cause issues with the gears in the motor if you start forcing it, so don't pull it. Just hold this button here, and you'll hear that noise, and just let it feed itself out. And once the noise changes, you can just lift it. Okay, so you'll notice that it's not too bad, but sometimes the end of it isn't perfect anymore. So if you just snap it so that you've got a nice clean edge for the next time you use that colour, and that just keeps everything clean and tidy and makes it less likely for the pen to block up on the inside. So now that you know how the pen actually works, I will show you, I think it's this pen, one of my other ones, is blocked, so I'll show you how to unblock a pen. So there's no way to turn them off. They will turn off themselves after, I think it's 30 seconds, they go on to standby automatically. So you can just pull this out and it turns it off. So this is just the same pen. It's the first generation of this type. I think there's 3 generations now. I prefer the first generation. I do have second generation ones, but I always find that I have more issues with these ones than I do with these ones, so I tend to go for these still. So I'll just turn this one on, so just plug it in, turn it on, this button here, the light goes on. This will take a little bit longer to heat up because I've not used it. The second generations are just very similar, except from you can use ABS or PLA, the 2 materials I mentioned earlier. You can change the temperature of this easier. It means that you can use more experimental filaments in it as well, because you can change the temperature so that you're not burning a material, or if something needs a higher melting point or a lower melting point, you can sort it out so that you can use it. That's the only advantage I can see over this, and since that I don't really need that for what I do, I find the screen and the buttons here, they just add a whole other thing that can break, which I don't find necessary. So this one's on. So I'll show you what it does if it's jammed. And jamming usually occurs because you've run out of plastic and it's disappeared inside the pen, and you feel like you've used up all your plastic, but really because the thing that pushes it is up here, there's still lots of plastic in it. So I've not actually opened this pen up, but I assume that's what the problem is. So I'll show you what it does if a pen is blocked. So you take your filament, you hold it in, and then it makes that noise, and then suddenly it's just making a high pitched noise and won't go any further. So I'm just going to, because I'm going to open the pen up, I'm just going to unplug it. I will have to plug it back in a minute because I'll need to heat, probably have to heat up the filament to manage to get it out, assuming it is jammed. Okay, so you take a screwdriver and you take out this screw here. And once that screw is pretty much out, you can lift the back of it off here. And this is what it looks like on the inside. Okay, so you can have a look inside your own one to see real big details, but it's a very simple circuit board. You'll see where the buttons are go. It's all very self-explanatory, where the slider is. And these 2 things here, one of them is the motor and one of them is the power, where you plug it in so that the board gets power. So what we're going to do, so that we can take it apart, is first thing to do is just take these out. So do that, just pull the little white bits out, just be gentle with it, don't do too rough. and then they come out easily. Okay, and now this is one thing that I've discovered since I started using these. When you're taking, so we want to take this white part off so that we can get whatever plastic is stuck inside this tube. So this tube goes up into the white part, and that's where the filament is stuck. So to get into access to that tube, the easiest way is to take this white part off. And to do that, there's 3 screws. And I used to take them all off. I don't know why. I guess I hadn't really worked out what it was that made it pop off. But you don't need to do that, and you shouldn't do that, because if you do that, these screws become looser. It sort of shreds the plastic on the inside. It becomes looser, and the feeder doesn't catch the filament every time, and something can wear down filament and block your pen. And just because the whole, when you're using it, it slips, so the filament's not coming out properly. So that does cause a big issue that really can't be fixed. So unless you really have to clean up like the cogs or something, don't take these screws out. Just take this one out here. So just to clarify, this one here, down on the flat part. Okay, so now this part, to actually take the white part off, that's all the screws we need to take out at the moment. So to do this part, you have to sort of push the orange bit at the same time as pull the white bit. That happened quite easily there. It usually doesn't happen that easily. You usually have to give it more force than you think it needs or can withstand. So just be aware of that. So it looks a little bit, there's quite a lot of plastic on the inside of it. So while you're in here, you want to just pull off any stringy bits of plastic from any bits of plastic that might have been, when I said earlier about snapping the plastic to put it in. Yeah, this is why, because you do get those stringy bits caught up in amongst the gears and things. So, but it's okay. It's not too bad. So now, got this plastic bit. I can't see any plastics. Oh yeah, there we go. Do you see this tube? This tube here has lifted up, and it's exposed this bit of filament. So that is filament. That's this plastic stuff that's jammed inside the pen, which meant that we couldn't feed any more through. So to sort this out, we are going to have to take another screw out. Sometimes you can get away with just pulling it through, but we're going to have to take the tube out. So we can just pull the tube out like this. Oh, actually, we should. I'll take the screw out. So we just. And then I've got that bit off. And then, okay, so do you see, this plastic is now stuck inside the nozzle. And even if you pull it really hard, it's not really going to come out. And you don't really want to be forcing it either, because it is quite delicate. So what we do, so this is where we have to be careful, because we are putting power on the board and we're working with it open. So we just want to be a bit more cautious. So we're going to plug it back into the board. So it's very easy to tell two apart, because one of them is 2 pins and the other one's 3 pins. So it's easy to work out where to put each of them. Oh, do you see this part just fell out? So it's now a little bit of filament that's been stuck in somewhere. So I'm just going to click that in, and then put the power back into the white and turn the pen back on. So that's it just heating up. Oops. Okay. So it does take about, I think one of the boys counted it, I think it's 18 seconds to heat up from cold. So that's it green now. I'm not going to turn it around because the wires are a little bit delicate. So now that it's heated up, we can just pull the white out because it's been melted. So it just comes out really easily. And now I'm just going to pull the power back out just now. Actually, I'll just unplug it. and then I'll pull these back out. Okay, so now we just have to put it back together. But one thing to notice, if you are using a generation 2, second generation one, if you're in amongst all this, you want to make sure that the screen is in place when you're putting it back together. I've done it so many times that you open it up, you put it all back together, and then you turn it around and the screen and the buttons aren't actually clicked into the body of the pen, so you can't actually use it. You have to take it all apart again to put them in place. And that's one thing I don't like about these, because it's annoying and it's really fiddly, because under the board, the screen, so you can end up having to take everything out, which is quite easy. Like, you'll be able to work it out if you have to do that. It's self-explanatory, but it's fiddly and it's annoying, so I do prefer these. So, to put it back together, take the tube. This is a PTFE tube. It just means that, well, it's like a Teflon tube, so when it's in close to the heating block, it doesn't melt it. So, yeah, it's and it's the diameter so that filament goes through nicely, and so it just slots into the black circle there, cylinder, and push it as far as you can. Don't be too rough with it again, but yeah. And then take this little clamp and screw it into place. And then what's next? We're going to click this back in. So we just make sure you thread the wires through the orange bit, because if they're on the other side, when you click together, the pen's not going to go back together properly, which is annoying. And then click, and then, well, you can, oh, one thing you want to make sure, so this tube here, the tube on the inside, you want to make sure that it feeds into this tube here. So just line them up before you click it in. And there we go. And then you can see that it's fed in properly. So then just click and click. So we want to put the last screw in. So this screw here. And don't be too heavy-handed with it, because it will shred the plastic, so just don't tighten it more, like don't really try to tighten it as tight as it will possibly go. Just tighten it so that it's, you know, it's tight. And then we just have to put the back on. You can test it before you do it all, but I'm pretty confident that this is fixed now. So I'm going to put the back on and screw it back together. Okay, and now we will test it. So power adapter back on, turn it on to heat up. And now it's heated up, so we can just put the filament in and make sure it's up fast. There we go. And now it's going in. You can hear it's going past the part where it was blocked before. Fixed. So we'll just put it fast together. There we go. You do that. Other problems you might come across, if you take your filament, and especially if you're working from a reel and it's the last bit, so it's quite a really tight curve, because it's curved so much, when you're putting this in, you'll have noticed that there's a tube that goes into the tube. If there's any curve on your filament, it can manage to not feed properly. so it might get stuck. Because it's curved round, it can hit the wall instead of feeding into the tube. So if you're pushing it in and you know that there's not any filament in there, but it's still not feeding, you can either, if it's a nice bit of filament, you can try and straighten it up and then feed it through, or you can just snap it, or use scissors to cut it if it doesn't snap very easily, and try it again. So usually, it's uncommon, it's not that common, but if it seems not to be feeding properly, just reverse it, straighten it up and try again, and that should usually fix your problem. If it does jam, so that's what I just explained. The biggest fix that you might have to do, and it's really annoying, and unfortunately I don't actually have a pen with that problem right now, so I can't demonstrate it, but one thing that might happen is this happens especially if you have run out and you do try to put filament in afterwards. Sometimes it will push the filament through, just by chance if it does it. The extra, I don't know if it's extra force or something, that makes the whole nozzle, the whole black part here, pop off, and that can cause some major issues. There was something I was going to say about feeding it through. If you do run out, and you're like, oh no, I've run out and it's not feeding anymore, sometimes if you're really quick, you can hold the reverse button and it will reverse it back out. As long as it's a straight bit of filament, it can reverse it back out. So that's one thing that you have to try before taking the whole pen apart or anything else. Do try to reverse it first. Also, something that I've noticed that some people worry that they've broken their pen. To reverse your plastic, the green light does have to be on. So if it's a red light, or if the light's gone off because it's gone to standby, you can't reverse it. So you have to make sure that it's a green light before it will reverse plastic. So back to the nozzle popping off. So it's big, really frustrating, because once it's done it once, I've not got any nozzles to demonstrate with, but you can see here and here, the black bits, those are like little tabs at the end of the nozzle, and when you push it into the main part of the pen, they click into place. But once the nozzle is popped off, the plastic tends to has bent in a little bit, which means that it'll pop off far easier. So even when you're just using the pen normally, it can pop off, which is an issue. But, so if your nozzle has popped off, I will probably do a video eventually, whenever I next get a pen that the nozzle breaks and nozzle pops off. But you'll see all the inside of the nozzle, and it'll be the heating block, there'll be a sort of cotton type of material that surrounds it, and it acts as an insulator, and there'll be wires. And the biggest issue, if this happens, is if the wires break because it's been too much force and it's caused the wires to actually break, your light will flash, which means that it's not heating anymore and there's a problem. So to fix that, you're going to have to solder the wires back together. So it depends if you've got any experience with soldering, you might be able to do that, but that could be an issue. But if the light's not flashing, it means the wires should be fine. So to fix it, what you need to do, it's really quite difficult, but if ever it happens, always make sure you get as much, like, the filament out as soon as possible. So you want to reverse it as soon as it happens, and then when you're trying to put it back on, it needs to be hot, because there's filament, even if you've taken your filament out, there's little bits that are stuck inside the nozzle because it was like molten plastic when you're removing the plastic, so it did leave the molten plastic inside the nozzle. So you do need it to be hot so that when you're pushing the nozzle back into the pen, it's not hard plastic that it's trying to push, it's molten plastic still, so it'll let you click it, but it takes a lot of force, so you're going to have to be pushing it with like really sturdy, thick gloves and pushing it into the pen to get it to go in, and it will click back in. But to avoid it happening again, because it probably will happen again once it's done it once, because of these tabs changing their position, you can stretch these tabs back out. So that if it ever happens to you, remove the black bit, and the black bit's just like a little plastic pyramid. It's just about plastic. But if you, I've got a socket set, and if you put the black nozzle over one of the sockets, the biggest one that I'll fit on, use a hairdryer and just hold it on it, so it's just adding some heat, and you can stretch out the tabs a bit and almost put them back in the position that they were in before, and then you can click it back on, and that is pretty much a permanent fix with it, or in my experience it has been. I've got about 20 of these, and probably at least 15 of them have had that happen to them, and it doesn't happen regularly, so yeah, that's a good fix to stretch out the tabs using some heat. The only other problem, touch wood, that I've had with them is, I'm not sure if it's just because obviously my pens get used every day and have done for over a year, so it might just be that the pens that this has happened to, they're old pens and that's just their lifespan, but the motors goes, and then I guess unless you replace the motor, that's it. There's no way to actually fix the motor. So that's the only other issue that I've had with the pens. So other than that, every other one is fixable. So yeah, so just be careful with them, don't be heavy-handed with them, and just remember not to run out of your filament, and you should be absolutely fine. So enjoy your pens.